What do you know about the Bracero program?
The Bracero program is was a program that was established in 1942. It brought a lot of Mexicans to work here in the U.S. because of the low amount of males it was here, American males that was here in the U.S. at the time, because it was a World War II era. So they came over under the program, giving them jobs for a certain amount of time to us in companies and fields.
Okay. So a lot of Mexican men, particularly about 4 million, came into the United States, and a lot of them actually left a lot of their families behind in Mexico. This led to a lot of Mexican workers to stay here. Even when they were supposed to go back when their visas expired, they still continued to stay here. A lot of them tried bringing their families over, and that was obviously not a part of the deal under this program. Do you feel like other programs like this would benefit the US and Mexican immigrants, or do you feel like something like this would happen again, as to where immigrants would come over and their visas would expire but they would still stay here? Do you think that there should be tighter regulations, or do you think that either way, with stricter regulations, that this is still going to continue if programs like this are available for immigrants in the United States?
Well, I think that even with strict regulations, it's gonna remain the same. You know, they'll remain here. They're not gonna leave. Um, it's just I don't know. Even with I don't think that even with strict regulations they're gonna leave the country because it's a necessity. They need money. They need to support their families, so they're gonna do what they have to do to support their loved ones back at home or here if they have them here.
Okay. There are many barriers that immigrants face when entering society in the US. Do you feel your parents face some of the barriers?
Um,
For example, kind of like when they would come over, if your parents didn't know anybody, or if they had to come over here and find jobs, and they had to also protect themselves because they did not have citizenship here. For example, your dad, when he first came, he was not a citizen. So, do you feel that he was always sort of watching his back? Do you feel like he needed to worry about what employers he worked for? Things like that. What barriers do you think that your parents faced?
yeah, I definitely think that they face a lot of barriers, a lot of walls in their paths. For example, my father, he really watched who he worked for because, you know, when he came here, racism was still at a higher level than it is today. So by him being an illegal immigrant, um, a lot of the times their bosses would take advantage of them, uh, overworking them and paying them the same or even less of what they would another regular American employee would earn. So I definitely think that they definitely watch their backs, and not only that, I mean, uh, with people itself, even outside in the streets, I think that it's more of a he had to watch himself because uh, a lot of times immigrants feel like they're not protected by the law or by anything else because they're immigrants. So uh, people tend to take advantage of them, like I said, and work or outside in the streets. And I definitely think that that's a big barrier that a lot of immigrants to this day have to uh, face or look out for.
Okay. Do you think there were a lot of changes your parents had to undergo when they're adapting to the ways of the United States? Such as the language. I don't know if your parents spoke English when they first came over here. Not only the language, but there's just different lifestyles here than there is in Mexico. A lot of different traditions here, a lot of different ways of transportation, a lot of different ways of, um, going shopping, either for clothes, food, things like that. Do you feel that it was hard for them to adapt to the new ways of the United States versus when they lived in Mexico?
Definitely, I think that was a big issue for them, because, well, my father, when he first came here, he had nobody here, but one of his cousins. So for him, it was pretty much learning on his own. So the lifestyle from Mexico is very different from here. First of all, the language was one of the biggest problems he faced. Not being able to speak English affected him a lot. Um, you know, Lifestyle wise, here in America, we tend to use more of a vehicle to get around. When in Mexico, a lot of families walk. A lot of families do, things differently. So, yeah, getting used to the lifestyle from here from the U.S., the new habits, you can say, their old habits, you pretty much have to get rid of them. Uh, yeah, it's something that they have to really get used to. It must have been really hard because they weren't used to that. But yeah, I think it's something that they underwent that was very tough for them.
And what about socially, the way they had to adapt socially? I know you said your father only had one cousin here. How do you think he felt leaving his family, leaving his relatives, leaving the friends that he had, having to come over here and only know one person, not being able to go hang out when he was done with work or to express how the changes were affecting him? How do you think he had to deal with that? How do you think that made an impact on his decision about coming to the United States?
It made a big impact because from what he tells us, it was really hard for him because he had nobody to communicate with. When he was at home, where him and his cousin lived, uh, his cousin was gone when he was at home, and when my dad was gone, my uncle was home. So they never really saw each other. So there was no communication. He didn't have anybody. Um, the people from work, they were just co-workers, nothing else, no friendship. Uh, and he maintained two jobs. So even with that, like, it made it hard for him to establish friendships with people around where he lived, around his area. So I mean, socially, it affected him a lot also. Considering that in Mexico he left all his friends, all my family, all our family. Um, Not being able to talk to my grandmother when he was facing a hard time, like we do. When I'm facing a hard time, I talk to my mother or my father about it, and him not having anybody, he tells us it was hard for him.
Okay. Since you were first generation born here, do you feel you had to help your parents with things such as school paperwork, laws of the United States, or anything else along those lines?
Well,
For example, like if you were in school and you had to go on a field trip and it required a part of your parents, not only permission, but also say there was a school event and your parents needed to attend. Did you feel that you had to kind of be maybe like a translator? Maybe you had to show them the ways of how it was versus other parents who were born in the United States. They went through the schooling process themselves here. They went through learning, all the laws of the United States. They've already grown up here knowing how things work. Versus you were the first one who had to grow up learning how things work here in the United States. Do you feel like you had to help them figure out things or learn about new things?
we can say that I helped them translate. I was kind of a translator for them at certain points. Uh, Most mainly for my mother. My father not so much because when he's been here for a long time, so he kind of just adapted to the system. and he learned the language. So even with school, when it came for my school papers or whatever, he would read them and he would understand them. He just adapted to them. But the one I guess I would use it, you could say I helped out a lot, and I became that translating person. I became would be my mother, but not so much my father.
Okay. So, my both my parents were born here in the United States. When it came to school, when it came to my social life, when it came to me, applying for college, when it came to me playing sports, when it came to me introducing my friends to my parents and just telling my parents about my everyday life, my parents understood me more just because of the fact that they went through all the same things growing up. Do you feel that relationship between your parents when it came to you expressing your everyday lifestyle about school, about work, about friends, about signing up for things, do you feel that there was sort of like, a barrier between you guys when it came to your parents understanding exactly what you were going through or exactly what was happening? For instance, like, when I was going to school and I would sign up for college, or when I was getting ready to do that, my parents understood more or less what it meant to further my education, and they also understood that there was a longer process in order to attend college. Do you feel that, you expressing your excitement, your nervousness, stuff like that about school was a little bit different compared to, you know, me telling my parents, just because of the fact that I know that there's different ways of living and different lifestyles and certain things that women or men do as they exit high school and go into further their education? Do you feel like there was differences when you guys were making decisions like that, or do you feel that you had to try and express things to them a little bit more to get them to understand just the point of what you were trying to do?
I definitely have to explain to them a little more because some of their habits that they still have with themselves, are very different. The way they grew up and the way they saw things are more serious. Like it's just they school to them is like important. So to them, school is like something, uh, and it will relate to most Mexican uh, families. To them, it's like it's kind of like a, how can I put it? It's kind of like a you to them, school and everything is a serious topics, and you need to like I don't know how to express myself. It would I could just say that it's serious, and you need to explain to them a little more and tell them because they don't understand the same way your family would understand it because of the ways that they were both raised growing up. So
So do you feel like to them school is more important because, here in the United States, uh, it's like you go to school.
mhm,
Every child, once you turn 5 years old, like you go to kindergarten,
right,
you then go to middle school, you then go to high school. Here, it's a normal thing. It's like waking up every
yeah,
morning.
and
So do you think maybe because there's differences in society when it comes to
yes,
school, that education to them is a lot more important
it is important.
because it's more accessible here than it would be in
Yes,
Mexico?
that's the thing. It's to them it's important because it's something that they didn't have. A lot of them didn't have the chance to. Uh, a lot of them didn't have the opportunity to attend school because of money issues with the families. Earning um, so little wages. So having the opportunity to attend school for free is important to them. It's an opportunity that you must take advantage of.
Okay. Also, do you feel your parents have different views than other parents who were born in the United States? For example, views on sexuality, views on religion, views on marriage, a lot of social topics, that parents discuss here, like topics that are in the news. Do you feel that they have different views versus other parents who have grown up here in the United States?
Well, I'm not Mexican families, particularly. Religion is very serious for us. We hold religion in a very special spot in our hearts. We're believers of it. I mean, I'm not saying that people in America don't believe in religion, but there's just this like um, we hold religion at a high at a high expectation. It's part of our everyday life, and but other than news topics and everything, I think it's pretty much similar. Uh, they discuss, they view what's going around their area, and they take caution on whatever they need to take caution on. But I just think religion is something that Mexican families take really, really serious, especially the Mexican moms.
What is one thing you feel your parents do to keep you and your family close to your Mexican heritage?
Taking us to Mexico a lot. They like to keep us connected to my grandparents. They like to keep us connected to our roots. Visiting Mexico, it's like an ultimate experience because I connect to where, to my roots, to where we originally started. I see how my parents grew up. I see the lifestyle they live. So I think that's one of the main things they do for us to keep us connected to our roots. And also, the fact that my mother and my father, at a very young age, they began to speak to us in Spanish. And thanks to that, I now am able to speak English and Spanish fluently.
Okay. If you can give advice to families migrating into the U.S., what would it be? And it can be anything. It can be anything about, once they get here. It can be about, well, what's the best place to go enjoy, a Sunday. It can be anything. What would your advice be to them?
The best advice I can give them is, stay out of trouble. Stay out of trouble. If you're gonna come here illegally, try to just obey the laws. Obey the laws that already within. You're already in the country, so obey the laws that you know support the country. Just try to get your residencies or citizenships because it's something that you really really need. Something that if you don't have legal documentation, it just makes it harder for you. So I really really advise them to just work on that.
Okay. And I do have one more question for you. Do you feel that overall, having parents that were born in another country, do you feel that has helped you more than it has harmed you, or it has harmed you more than it has helped you?
I don't think it has harmed me in any way, and I think it's helped me. Um,
And when I
just
say harm, just to clarify, I
right.
don't
No,
mean
no,
in
no,
danger. I don't
no,
mean.
no, no, no,
I'm
no.
talking about when it comes to you growing up, your social lifestyles, your relationship with your parents, your views
Well,
on.
actually, you know what? I take that back. Yes, it has because when it comes to, for example, me going out and me doing the life of a young teenager, not teenager, adult. Um, I want to go out, do things, enjoy my life. And to my dad, it's kind of like, why are you always out in the streets? So I guess it has affected me in our relationship. Me and him tend to crash a lot on that topic. Um, their views towards things, and because of the way they were raised, and the fact that they had to grow up at a very very young age, it does harm, and that's coming back from that they're immigrants, that they're coming from another country. So yeah, I feel like that has.
And in what ways do you feel it's helped you?
Like I said, it's just I know two languages. Here in Southern California, if you know English and you know Spanish, it's a much help for you. Uh, Also, it helps me out a lot because I can communicate with a lot of people. So I feel like it's helped me in that topic.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have for you for now. I just wanted to get into the mind of a young adult who's in college and who's living, the everyday lifestyle as a normal Mexican American. And I just wanted to know how it has affected you, how it has changed you, how it has helped you, because of the fact that you have parents who were not born here in the United States of America. A lot of people don't really think about the first generation. A lot of people think about the issue of immigrants coming over here, but not a lot of people tend to follow up on, their lifestyles after or when they have children, the way, it has affected the children, the way it affects the parents, relationships between the parent and the child, things like that. So it's always interesting to know how someone like you and I can be so similar. We go to work, we go to school, um, but there's a lot of differences just because of the fact that your parents were born in another country and my parents were born here in the United States of America. So it's interesting to know how much different it can really be just having parents of a
Yeah,
different
it's
background.
it's a big change. It's a big difference. Um, I mean, but it's something I'm very thankful for. I'm thankful for everything that I am, and maybe the person that I am today has made me. Well, how they are has made me the person I am today. So I'm proud of that.
Okay, definitely. Well, thank you
Thank you.
for your time.
No, thank you for inviting me. All right.